Okay.
All right, take 4.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. This is take 4. Yeah.
We shouldn't admit it.
Oh
my gosh.
Because this is
Okay.
fun.
Podcast magic is all I'm going to say.
When I get goofy.
We are all so goofy and half tired. And
I've had sugar and
sugar.
food. And yeah. Plus, sometimes you just get goofy. I'm a goofy person. What can I say?
It's getting late, too.
I'm a goofy goober.
It's past our bedtime.
Past your bedtime.
Yeah.
News is about to start.
this is almost my prime time. So
Yeah. Anyway, the first time I was sounding like Bob Uecker, the last attempt, I went for a good 10 minutes with my NPR voice, and they just couldn't handle it anymore.
That may or may not show up somewhere.
as I say, there's got to be an outtake episode someday.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, but we'll go back to my normal obnoxious self now. Ready? Here we go. Today we're talking about not ghost ships, haunted ships. Last year we talked about ghost ships. If you listen to the episode, we talked about some of the ships that kind of appear, disappear. They're seen like 20 years later. We talked about some that you can still see that are considered ghost ships, but we're not talking about those this time. This time we're talking about haunted ships.
Yes.
These are ships that have ghosts on them and reported ghost sightings.
And all of them you can visit, and some you can actually sleep on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
You
definitely
can
makes it
try
interesting.
anyway. I don't know. I don't know if I could.
No, I don't know. I could do it.
Although I don't know.
There's one of them for sure I could sleep on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Oh, yeah. The last one. But
Well,
we'll talk about that one when we get there.
we'll see. How do I want to waste my time sleeping?
Well,
do I
eventually
just
you
wanna-
gotta sleep, right?
Nah, who needs sleep? There's a song from
Bare Naked Ladies.
Bare Naked Ladies. Yeah,
Mhm.
who needs sleep?
Who needs sleep?
Oh, I do.
Well, you're never going to get it. It's the way I
Yeah.
feel nowadays right now. Seriously.
Well, the older I get, the less sleep my body seems to. It needs the sleep, but it doesn't get it. You lay down. 2 hours later, you're up,
You're awake. Yeah. I can relate.
and you go back to sleep, and then 2 hours later, you get back up again.
That's why I prefer to drink a bottle of scotch before bed every night.
Oh my gosh.
Does the scotch not run through you as fast as water?
Just knocks you right out, right? Just pass out.
Did you wet the bed?
No, he wears Depends.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Or just put a catheter in.
I haven't
Sometimes it
gotten
just
to
works.
No, see, I can't just do that. I can't. And I can't just sleep in it, so it depends. That's out.
Well, if you haven't noticed, there is a voice missing here tonight.
There is a voice missing here tonight, and it's not just because she doesn't approve of the conversation.
No, she's generally just hates us and has disappeared.
My goodness.
Just come back, Elisa. We miss
Come
you.
back soon.
Tonight we are missing the lovely Elisa. She had a family function, so
Yep.
we're missing her.
We're hoping.
Hopefully,
she's
you
back
guys
again
miss
next
her, and you can message us. Go on social media on any of our platforms, and
Absolutely.
let's start like an online petition for Elisa to come back because we are terrible without her. Yeah, we're not.
She
We're not.
keeps us
Maybe
in
not
line.
terrible, but we're definitely better when she's here for sure.
100%.
So, who we do have here, though, in her filling in for her, to my right, we're gonna go counterclockwise this time, throwing you off for a loop.
It's Terry.
It's
Terry's
the lovely
right here.
Terry. She's
It's Lady Terry.
she's my wife.
Lady Terry.
There you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's married to a lord, not the lord, a lord,
Oh Lord.
but also a lady married to a lord.
Jamie.
The lovely Jamie,
And Josh.
Lord Josh, and I'm Lord Mike. Again, not the lord, just a lord, because we own land in Scotland.
We all do.
Yep.
Or actually, I don't know if we really own land, but we do have a
You have a
certificate.
certificate that says
The
we
certificate
do.
says I do. Yeah, so it's on paper. If you can read it, you can believe it.
Right.
Works for me. Well, anyway, so we are talking about ghost or haunted ships, like I said. So let's just jump into it. Josh, you want to lead us off with the USS Constitution?
Well, yeah, of course. The USS Constitution, for those of you who don't know, is the oldest still commissioned naval warship in the fleet. It's 223 years old. So
Just a young buck.
just a young buck.
Just a young buck.
And it's one of those places you can still visit. So its construction began in 1794 in Hart's Shipyard. and it got completed in October 21st of 1797. So, yeah, quite old. It got its actual first wartime efforts in the quasi-war with France, and that was just a year later, so in 1798. And then in 1804, it was sent to Tripoli to fight pirates off the Barbary coast.
The one in Vegas?
No, the one in the Mediterranean.
Wait, what's the name of the ship at the TI in Vegas?
I have no idea.
That's funny because it's down the street from Barbary Coast.
Oh, I have no idea.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know what you're talking about. I've never.
It'd be funny if it was the Constitution.
That would be funny.
Maybe it's the Olympia. I don't know. I digress.
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry.
No worries. Its greatest glory actually came in the War of 1812, where it ended up fighting British frigates, and that's where it earned the nickname Old Ironsides. So it was purported that the cannon fire from the British ships wouldn't actually penetrate its oaken hull, and that the cannonballs would actually bounce right off of it.
So you said penetrate.
I did.
We're all children here.
This is what happens when it gets late. Yeah, and the ship actually still sits today in Charleston Naval Yard in Boston Harbor.
Does it really have iron sides?
No, it's actually oak wood. So
Solid oak. American oak.
yeah, that's right, American oak.
America.
And then Ghost Hunters Dustin Perry said, knowing the history of this ship lends to the sensation of walking amongst the ghosts of American history. I wish I had some fun, good ghost stories for the ship.
Probably. Well, there was one time when I was on the ship, and I saw a woman in white. And
They're everywhere.
There's always a woman.
I bet you there's a woman in white on that boat.
Oh, I'm sure.
Bet you. Yeah.
But you got to figure a ship that has spent that time in service and battle definitely has seen its form of tragedy and whatnot. And so there's got to be stuff running around on there. I just couldn't find any actual stories of it, which is amazing for something that's so old.
Well, even just residual stuff, right? If you think about all the men over the centuries, because it's over 200 years old, so I'm going to say centuries, that were down in think of all the yelling and all the orders that were being commanded and whatnot. I mean, I'm sure that there are people, if you were to spend the night there, it would make perfect sense that you would, hear things, hear yelling or hear
cannon fire
or something, yeah,
or sailors, pissed
Yeah.
off about having to wash the deck again or
whatever. Yeah. Well, and the thing is, the ship was never beaten in battle, which is one of the reasons why it actually still sits in a harbor. But just the fact that it's been in some major fights and stuff like that, it's going to have that emotion attached to it,
right? And you think about who was on it. These were men who weren't typically pressed to be sailors. These were men who served in the military.
Yeah, the naval officers and Marines actually were on those ships.
And why were they there? Because like pirates, they loved the letter C. No, just they loved the sea.
The letter C.
Well, yeah, that reminds me of a joke that I heard once. What's a pirate's favorite letter?
R.
You think it would be the R, but no, it'd be the C. They loved being at sea, and so that would be a place that was home for them,
right,
and a happy place for them. So,
yeah,
it would make sense that there'd be plenty of hauntings there.
Absolutely, and I'd be willing to bet that a lot of them are probably residual. But I mean, obviously, people have died on that ship, and so there's always the chance for intelligent hauntings.
So Josh did have some hauntings on there, but his cat ate the notes.
Yeah,
I'm
she
putting
did.
it on Willow.
She did. She jumped right up and she ate the notes right in front of us, and it was actually terrifying and horrible to watch at the same stroke.
But if you are ever in Boston and you do get a spare, hour and a half, 2 hours, head down to the harbor and you can go and tour the USS Constitution.
Right. And yeah, it would be awesome. It is one of the, it's a tall ship. It's got 3 masts. It would be awesome to see the ship with or without the sails up.
And if you want to investigate it, take your micro dowsing rods and just quietly, when nobody's looking, ask a question.
Right. He's like, yeah. Are you
Maybe
here?
don't do that. I don't know. I've never tried that, but I really want to. There's lots of places I want to just take my dowsing rods and just ask. All right, well, so let's talk about another one. So this one is called the Steam Ferry Berkeley. With a name like Berkeley, you'd imagine it has to do with
California.
hippies in California. And you're not far off. It is California. So the Steam Ferry Berkeley started service around November 6th of 1898. So it was the first propeller-driven ferry on the Pacific coast instead of the old paddle wheel like you're used to seeing for like the old steam ferries, right? The old river boats. So most of its service was in the Bay Area between San Francisco and Oakland. So just kind of traversing the bay there. And it was used up all the way up until 1958, which is actually fairly recent for an old, ferry such like that. Because you think about it, when was the Golden Gate Bridge? I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know, but it's old, right? So you could drive from San Francisco to Oakland, and it was probably a lot easier than taking the
because
steam
it
ferry.
started in 1898 and it went to 1958. I mean,
so it's been around.
yeah.
So after the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, it was used 24/7 to carry people away from the damage and the fires in San Francisco all the way up to Oakland. And it could haul 1,700 people on a normal day. But after the earthquake, it was actually transferring over 2,400 people at a time. And because of all of the energy of the people who survived the horrific quake and the fires, it left a lot of energy on the boat. A lot of residual hauntings. And people have reported hearing disembodied voices and conversations, ghostly footsteps, crying, moaning, weeping, all the fun stuff that goes on with that. The only documented death on the ship took place in the men's bathroom. Funny enough, right? Somebody was straining too hard.
Had a coronary and
You
died.
would think the one place where somebody died was
You
the
would-
bathroom
right.
on this whole ship.
It's like one of those Elvis moments.
Like engine room, I would get, passenger cabin, sure.
Somebody fell overboard.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, he died in the bathroom. So now documented doesn't mean the only death. It's just that this is the only one that's on record.
Yeah, so there could have been other deaths on the ship. They just weren't documented. So who knows how many deaths were actually on the ship, on any of these ships.
Or in that
Right.
bathroom. I mean, nobody's going to write that in the notes. Died trying to push one out. But today where that bathroom is, it's now a staff break room. But back in October of 1911, on one of its trips to Oakland, there was a mining engineer by the name of John Norbum. And he was in the bathroom. He had a vial of nitroglycerin in his back pocket, just like most of us usually do.
Oh, I
Yeah, I
carry
carry-
nitroglycerin every
Right.
day.
all the time.
It's for his heart, right?
Yeah, it's for mining.
It's for mining. A whole vial of it, yeah. That'll get your heart going for sure. Well, somehow it fell out of his back pocket, and I can only guess if he was in the bathroom. Maybe he dropped his pants.
Oh, man.
Like when your cell phone falls out of your
There
pocket
was
in the
like
bathroom.
the fumes from the bathroom just to help ignite that,
Oh,
I don't
my
know.
gosh.
But when that vial hit the floor,
like
an
the
explosion.
like the stogie in Christmas Vacation.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Christmas tree. But anyway, when the vial fell out, it caused an explosion and it burned up his backside. Now, when it said backside, I don't know if that just means his butt, or if it means like the
His
whole
entire
back,
The whole
his
entire
backside. I'm gonna
backside.
wager it was the entire back half
It
of his
has
body.
to have been, because if he died and passed away,
But not only did it injure him, it also injured 5 other people.
That's
Right.
a pretty big explosion.
that's a huge
Yeah.
explosion.
But John was the only casualty from that explosion, and there's rumors whether it was actually intentional or on accident.
Yeah, because his family claims that he would never carry a vial of nitroglycerin on him. So there's like rumors that
it's-
this was like somebody planning his death, like intentional.
So it could have been murder.
So it could have been murder.
Yeah. Or just someone that just, did a Homer Simpson, took a radioactive thing home in his little pocket. And
Look what I found.
it's the beginning of The Simpsons, yeah. Okay, but there have been sightings of a man wearing a fedora in the break room. So that's why I said that where this bathroom was is now a employee break room.
Right.
They've been seen wearing this man wearing a fedora in the break room where this explosion happened. And it's believed that this is the spirit of John Norbum. Now, others have said that the bathroom stalls on the ship will lock by themselves. And there's also been reports of objects disappearing and then reappearing, as well as doors being slammed by unseen hands.
Spooky.
Well, it's spooky if you're sitting in the break room taking a break, and all of a sudden there's some dude in a hat disappears. Your door
Put your lunch in the
slamming.
fridge and then you go to get it and your lunch is gone. Dang it. What am I going to eat today?
You're in the bathroom, and all of a sudden the bathroom door slams shut next to you.
Oh, the worst
That
is like
scare the crap out of you.
if the door
It's a good thing you're sitting down.
unlocks while you're in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's even
Because
worse.
those lock from the inside.
Yep.
Ugh.
Oh, that would be, yeah.
So is it bad for me to wonder if when they see the guy in the break room with the fedora, if he's got his pants up or down?
No, I kind of wonder the same thing.
Well, all you know is the explosion happened in the bathroom, but you don't know what he was doing in the bathroom
Right.
when the explosion happened. So
He could have been washing his hands,
Could have.
or he could have been sitting down.
He could have.
Dropping trowel.
He could have been
that's
jumping
how
up
it
and
fell out
down.
of his pocket, right?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So I would hope that
Maybe he sat down on, he was just like going to read the paper. Didn't even drop his pants, just sat down on it, broke the vial, and it,
oh man,
Yeah.
I don't
Who
know.
knows?
How volatile is nitroglycerin? I don't really know.
highly volatile.
Like if you break a vial, is it just boom?
It's like one of those things that you got to be very careful with shocking it because it'll explode. So
All right.
it's what's inside of dynamite.
Yeah.
Either way,
yeah.
it's impressive that it did not
Take
do
the whole
more
ship
damage
down.
to the ship.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it could have been a small amount. It could have been a very small amount of nitroglycerin. I wouldn't imagine
Yeah.
it'd be a lot, right?
But it
'Cause
was
you don't
enough-
need much.
No, but it was enough to take 6 people down. So
Yeah.
Were
Yeah.
they all in the bathroom too?
I don't know.
How big is
That's
this
a very
bathroom?
crowded
Yeah,
bathroom.
I don't know. I mean, but it's just funny. Yeah, you hear the boom and you're like, do not go in there. Wow. Anyway, so that's the steam ship, the steam ferry Berkeley.
Berkeley.
Now this is you can still go visit this one, right?
Yes, you can. It's in San Diego.
San Diego.
Nice. What harbor? What is it in a harbor?
It's actually there's like a whole museum, like a floating
Yeah,
museum.
maritime museum
It's
down there.
the Maritime Museum that's got like there's this one. The next boat that Mike's got is the Star India is also there. There's a couple submarines. There was a couple frigates. Can't remember what's all there, but it's like all this
So there's
floating.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's all this floating museum
Oh, that's cool.
in San Diego. And
It
I looked
almost
it up.
makes me want to go to California.
Yeah, it's only
Almost.
like $20 to get in and to go tour all these boats and ships and stuff that's just at this maritime museum place.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, I should look it up. It looks like a
I'd-
really cool place to go visit.
I'd go for that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then just stay and do a ghost hunt there too.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're like, hey, can we just
Well,
spend the night?
Yeah, you
Well,
guys,
then- and-
Josh
well,
is the
'cause
master of convincing people to let us go.
There are ghost investigative teams in California that have gone and investigated these boats.
Yeah,
Nice.
I've seen stuff
So-
from like the Star of India
Yeah.
and stuff. So yeah, I know you can go do it. It's just a matter of
Cost.
cost.
And what they're offering.
Yeah.
So.
And
Mhm.
and of course it's a drive to San Diego, which is
not horrible.
It's-
not horrible, but
it's
it's not
in
short either.
California.
It's doable.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know that there's places around, like ships like that around, because most of the stuff I would think of would be out east in like Maryland and Boston
hmm
and stuff. And so it's like, wow, that's from Utah, it's a couple 1,000-mile drive, not
But,
a few hundred.
I like the fact that there's just the history is being preserved.
Yeah. Well, especially with boats, right?
Old
'Cause
things are cool. Yeah, boats don't last long.
they don't. They start to deteriorate, which makes it even cooler that like these ships are over 100 years old that are still around, which makes it pretty neat. So
It reminds me of the movie Battleship.
Never seen it.
Oh yeah, they fight aliens with the old battleship.
Yeah.
They fight aliens.
hmm
Yeah, it's awesome.
it's like ID4 but with ships.
Okay.
But they
Yes.
actually,
Never seen that.
but they
either.
actually play like Battleship.
You haven't seen Independence Day? You've seen Independence Day.
It's been a long time ago. Or like Cowboys versus Aliens. I saw
Oh,
that one, but I don't
yeah.
remember
Oh, I
it.
That was a
that movie.
That was a great documentary.
Well, that's where Independence Day was, a premonition.
Right.
hmm
But no,
So-
with Battleship, they actually fight them by playing Battleship with the buoys. They
Yeah.
they know where it is because the buoy sets off a thing, and so they count spaces and
Well,
I'm
you gotta
serious.
bring it in somehow.
You guys
You
need
name
to
it after
watch
a game.
more movies.
Are you sure? Because that sounds awful.
It's actually not too bad.
Okay, what's the next ship you got, Josh?
The USS Constellation, which this one you have to be a little careful on, because there have been 3 ships in history that have been given the name the USS Constellation.
Yep.
So the first one is not the one we're going to talk about. That doesn't exist anymore. The third one we're not going to talk about because
It's on Star Trek.
you can't get on that ship. It's brand new. It's a brand new warship. So ain't no one ever going to let you touch that one, unless you happen to be in the Navy.
Wasn't there a Star Trek one though too? The USS Constellation.
I think so.
I don't know. I
I'm not
could
a
be wrong.
Trekkie.
I'm not either.
Neither is he, so I don't even know why he's bringing that up.
I don't know.
It's random facts from.
There's
Right.
there's
From
a
things.
USS Enterprise Navy ship, and there's a USS Enterprise
That's a stretch.
or S. I don't know, whatever.
I think you're right though.
All of them are haunted. The ghosts of all the red shirt people are all over the Star Trek.
They always die.
They do, except for Scotty. Tell us about the Constellation.
Yeah. So the second Constellation is one we're talking about. It was a sloop designed by John Lenthal, and it was constructed at the Norfolk Naval Yard in Virginia. Commissioned in July of 28th of 1855, it was later departed under Captain Charles H. Bell for a 3-year cruise with the Mediterranean Squadron to protect American interests. So another ship that goes out and goes into the Mediterranean and fights pirates and does all sorts of fun stuff. The cool thing about the ship is 1860, 1 week after Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumner, President Abraham Lincoln issued a proclamation declaring a blockade of the southern ports. So if you are a historian of the Civil War, this is one of those things that helped the North beat the South by cutting off supply lines to the ports.
Totally.
So this is one of the ships that was there. He then called the enlistment of 18,000 additional seamen. Following the president's orders, the Constellation seized the brig Triton on May 21st, 1861, which being the U.S. Navy's first capture of the Civil War. Although the Constellation's men found no slaves on board the captured vessel, they noted that every preparation for the reception had been made. So there's always this thought that there was going to be some slaves on board during that time. Then the Constellation was also sent out to the West Indies, doing some good old pirate travel, and taking on the pirates. And then in 1892, the Constellation sailed for Gibraltar to assemble works of art for the Columbian Exposition. Additionally, she stopped at Naples and, we're going to butcher this, La Havre, and ultimately returned back to New York in February of 1893. Afterward, the Constellation departed on her final training cruise to Gibraltar in June 7th, 1893, later returning under sail for the last time on August 29th. And then on September 2nd, 1893, she was placed out of commission in Annapolis, Maryland, and was subsequently towed by tug to Norfolk, Virginia for repairs.
And then
she became a ghost hunting ship.
Right on.
there's ghosts on it.
There's ghosts on it.
Tell us about some ghosts.
I will.
Tell me a story.
So there are a handful of manifestations that have been found on this ship. So we'll go through kind of each one of them. Oh, look at that. There's no woman in white.
Oh,
Wow.
she's there. She just hasn't been.
She just hasn't been found.
Hasn't been found out yet.
So there's a ghost of Neil Harvey that's reportedly on the ship. So he was actually court-martialed for cowardice in 1799. And he had left his assigned station at his gun in fear with the Battle of the French in 1799, where the 36-gun French frigate Insurgent was engaged and captured. So as a result of being convicted of cowardice and also being a traitor, Lieutenant Starrett started off Harvey's punishment by sticking him with his sword. So he was wounded, but still alive. He was then executed in the traditional brutal way, but used by both the British and American in this era. He was tied to the front cannon, and then
What?
he was tied
Yeah.
in front of the cannon,
Mhm.
and then they fired it.
Dude, come on.
Honestly, though, I would rather go that way than when they would put him under the boat and drag him under the boat. I can't remember what that's called.
Awfulness is what that's
yeah,
called,
it's awful.
It's
But
called
yeah,
attitude adjustment.
Horrible way to go.
right? So he often appears as a shimmering mass because this is the way he sees himself after being blown up. He wants to be forgiven for being a coward. He wasn't a traitor, though, and wants to find a way to clear his name.
You know what I like about that? What you just said there? I like how he portrays himself, how he wants to be seen,
Right.
because spirits can do that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? We've seen them we've seen them, change their shape to look like something maybe more menacing or less menacing, depending on what it is.
it's called keel hauling. That's what it is.
Oh, I've heard of the
Yeah.
term. I just didn't know what
Yeah.
it was.
No, keel hauling is a form of punishment where they would throw you out the front of the boat and then you'd get dragged under the boat and then they take you out the back, which you didn't think would be bad, but if they have all those barnacles on the bottom, that's like glass cutting through you in the salt water.
Like
Ripping
I
you
said,
open.
I would
Add-
rather be tied to the front of a cannon and died instantly versus possibly drowning and being dragged underneath a boat.
Right? That's awful.
But yeah, it's keel hauling.
So that's just, oh, good Lord. I don't know where to go with that one.
Bottom line, just do what you're told.
Right.
Well, the thing is like, I've heard of people, in the military abandoning their post, right?
Mm-hmm.
But generally that's like in a ground warfare where you can get away.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go on your ship if you abandon your post?
You
Nowhere.
had to go to the bathroom.
Not in battle. You hold it.
You hold it.
Or you pee yourself.
What if you can't hold
What if
it?
you can't hold it any
You
longer?
got diarrhea.
Then you pee yourself. And
How accurate are your shots? If you're like holding a rifle, how accurate are your shots if you're like doing the pee-pee dance?
this is a cannon. They don't matter.
Well, you still got to light the thing.
yeah.
If you can't hold the punk still long enough to get the fuse. I'm just being devil's advocate here. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he admits to being a coward. And I get it. War is scary, and people lose their nerve when bullets start flying. And you got cannonballs hitting the side of the ship where you're by your gun. It's gonna freak you out.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. But yeah, it's awful. So just in the 18th, 19th centuries, just don't abandon your post or you're going to get blown up by a cannon. At least it's quick. So Lieutenant Commander Alan Ross Brom on board the Pike took a picture of one of the entities of an 18th or 19th century officer that was described as having a bluish-white radiancy, wearing an old-fashioned uniform with gold stripes on his trousers, wearing a cocked hat, and carrying a sword. So they believe that was actually a picture of Neil Harvey. So another reporting there is Carl Hansen. He was the ship's 20th century watchman until 1965. He adored the ship and had a strong emotional bond to the ship. In his younger days, he was a Royal Navy cook, making him an old sailor himself. His ghost likes to play cards and will cheerfully give tours to unsuspecting guests, such as a priest who thought he was a real person. And then at a Sea Scout Halloween party, he sat next to a young girl and smiled at her.
Perv.
I think he sounds like a fun guy to be he'd be a fun guy to hang out with.
Dude, I think the ship's cooks are always the guys that they have the stories, and they're probably the most popular because, or well, maybe not. I don't know.
It depends on how good you are, right?
Yeah.
But he sounds like can you imagine you're going around and here's this guy giving you a tour of the ship, right? And the next thing you know, it's like, hey, that doesn't work. There's no guy on the ship.
You don't know who that is.
That's not a real person. That's a ghost.
Yeah.
That's Steven Seagal.
But if he loved his job that much, to show up and just be like, hey,
Yeah. Let me show you around.
let me show you the ship.
That would be cool.
Right?
It's like, let me show you all the haunted places.
Let me show
Your tour guide is a ghost.
That would be that would be spectacularly cool.
Y'all want to see something cool? Watch this. I walked through the door. Now I'm back.
So there's supposed to be a spirit of an 11-year-old boy on the ship. He was the surgeon's assistant aboard the Constitution or Constellation. I'm sorry, Constitution. Jeez. Between 1820 and 1822, he was murdered by 2 other sailors with a knife in the cockpit of the orlop deck. And this is according to a psychic from with Hans Holzer. So
Hans.
I don't know. Take that with a
grain of salt.
grain of
I don't
salt
know.
for sure.
Hans is like one of the grandfathers of ghost hunting. So.
Well, absolutely. It's a tougher one. Like I've always found the media, the psychics, a little bit tougher because it's not that they don't believe that they see what they see. It's just tougher because it's like I can't see what you see.
Yeah.
And so it's like
Easy for them
you
to
can
make
tell me
something
that
up.
you can tell me there's a boy standing over there and this is his story. It's like, but I can't see him.
Yeah.
So, and then there's a sailor who became overwhelmed with awful conditions on board and hung himself. And he's seen floating around across the gun in the forecastle decks.
See, that I'd buy.
Right. So, and there was a listed 49 deaths on this ship.
Wow.
So
It's a
there's
warship. So
right. Yeah, it's been in battle. It had a long career of fighting. So, people obviously died of this, that, and the other, whether it's, murder or suicide or malnutrition or whatnot.
So where's the Constellation now? Do you know?
Maryland, I believe. Let me take a quick look.
And you could go get your ghost tour there. So
Actually, no. I lie.
sorry, I didn't mean to throw you a curveball. there.
No, that's all right. It's in Baltimore's Inner Harbor.
Baltimore, Maryland. You're right.
Yeah, I was right. It's like I knew
Nice.
that. Then I saw something from New York. I'm like, oh wait. And
Yeah.
now that's just where I got repairs.
All right. Well, the next one we're going to talk about, we actually alluded to it before. Terry mentioned it, is also currently in San Diego.
It's the same, right next
Right.
door to the Berkeley.
Probably right next to the Berkeley is the Star of India. Josh mentioned it as well. So claims are that this is the world's oldest active sailing ship. I don't know exactly what the technical terms are to make something a active ship or not. This one they do take out to sea twice a year.
Probably would qualify.
And so, I would think that maybe that also means
She
not
still
towed,
moves in the water.
'cause-
She's not dry docked. She's not anchored.
well, I know like the
She's-
Constitution was pretty old too, right? Wasn't that
Mhm.
Yeah, 223 years.
so? But I think it's towed. I don't think that actually.
Yeah, I don't think they put the
They
sails
might
down.
tow it. Yeah, I think this one they actually put the sails up and they
They put the sails up. to
they
get
all
out to
wear
sea.
like bandanas on their heads and
And cigarette.
some guy with like
sing
a
parrot songs.
yeah right
They put a hook on their hand.
peg legs. And,
Gotta have a parrot.
trim the mainsails, you swabbies. I don't know. Anyway, well, her maiden voyage. So it's the world's oldest active sailing ship. Her maiden voyage was in 1863. It was originally named the Euterpe, and it sailed under a British flag. So 1863, give you an idea of how old this ship is. That was built the same time as Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. She sailed around the world 21 times. That's a lot of times around the world. She was used for transporting people from the British Empire to the British, or for the British Empire, from England down to Australia and New Zealand. When they were developing that area, it would transport folks and cargo out of India and just all over the world. In 1898, she was sold to the United States and was christened as the Star of India. Totally better name, in my opinion. Soon after that, she became a salmon fishing boat off the coast of Alaska until her retirement in 1923. I find that kind of weird because it's kind of a completely different style of use for a boat.
A weird boat for fishing.
It's like, hey, it's a big cargo ship. Let's use it. Let's go fishing.
Yeah.
Well, at least it had a big hold to hold salmon,
Right?
At least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and especially if it was bought by the United States. But
So they buy this ship and then they just go fishing with it After it was like traveled the world and been down to New Zealand and everywhere.
Is that the same as like putting a horse out to stud? Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
let's go get some fish.
Could be. It's like taking the Love Boat and using it for, I don't know.
I don't know where you're going with that one.
In 1927, she was sold to the San Diego Zoological Society, where she was actually going to be fitted as a floating aquarium, which to me just boggles the mind. However,
We've been to a floating aquarium
did we?
in Depot Bay in Oregon. We went to one.
Was it a floating aquarium?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I went
that
to
part.
one. I was at one in Boston.
They're out there.
So she was going to be fitted to be a floating aquarium, but the Great Depression and World War II made that, to never come to fruition. She is known as one of the most haunted ships in the country. The ship has had shadow apparitions and full body apparitions. People have reported being touched. People having physical manifestations of things and light anomalies, along with disembodied voices. Lots of EVP activity, along with hearing footsteps, just all sorts of stuff. One of the ghosts aboard the ship is a 14-year-old boy named John Campbell. And in 1884, he had snuck aboard the ship. And when he was found, the captain allowed him to stay and earn his keep. One day, he slipped and fell 100 feet from the top of the mast when letting down the sails, and he landed on the deck below. He was broken and bloody, and his legs were mangled, as you can probably imagine.
That's a heck of a fall, 100
It's
feet.
not-
Right.
If he'd have done it and did the superhero pose, like when he landed, he would have been okay.
Like Black Panther.
Yeah, you put like one leg out to the left, you kind of absorb the blow with your right leg, and then
That superhero pose, absorbs all the
that
shock.
landing. It does. It
That's-
does.
It's that landing.
That's how they can do it.
But being a 14-year-old in the late 1800s, he didn't know that. So sadly, he was mangled, and he ended up dying 3 days later. People visiting the ship have reported feeling something brushing up against them where he fell, and also about feeling their backs being touched.
Yeah, one of his games that he liked to play was Duck Duck Goose. And so he goes and draws on the backs of the people and stuff like that, trying to get them to come play with him.
Okay.
So what we do then is, if we ever get the chance to investigate this,
We
Oh,
play
heck
Duck
yeah.
Duck
We
Goose.
play Duck Duck Goose.
Yeah.
That would be
I'm
awesome.
gonna go teach him how to do a superhero landing.
But you have to jump off the top of the mast first.
No. I couldn't get up the mast, dude.
That's 100 feet of climbing. I am
Yeah.
not doing that.
I'm old. I'm
Better not
fat.
be afraid of
and I
heights.
have short digits.
No.
Short fingers, short arms. Yeah.
See, I've been amazed that people can, I've been on decent water with 10-foot waves and stuff like that, and I can't imagine trying to climb to the top in any type of weather out on the ocean
Right.
without
Oh, yeah.
falling off.
Right? Well, another ghost on the ship is Army Captain McBarnett. Don't have a first name for him, but while he was on board in 1875, people had claimed that he'd been drinking heavily and was severely depressed, as I could totally buy that. I'm a land lover, and if he's an Army captain being stuck on a boat out at sea, yeah, I get it. He was severely depressed, and 4 days into the voyage to New Zealand from England, he slit his own throat. Now, when he was found, they rushed him to the ship surgeon, where he was quickly stitched up and was placed in the first mate's cabin under watch. And he was left alone for one solitary moment, and he tore open his stitches and bled out, and he died there in the cabin.
Jeez.
So there have been reports of strange things happening in the first mate's cabin during a fourth grade overnight stay. This I thought that was interesting. A fourth grade overnight stay.
Yeah, who goes
on
on
the boat.
overnighters in fourth grade?
I don't know.
Never did.
Oh, that yeah.
But one of the teachers was sleeping in that cabin, and the blanket was ripped off of her in the middle of the night. She also reported that she felt the warm room grow cold, and there was a strange presence in the room there with her. Then in 1909, when she was making a return trip back to Alaska, a Chinese fisherman was guiding the massive anchor in position, and he lost his balance under the chain locker. His fellow crewmen were unable to hear his screams as he was crushed to death by thousands of pounds of cold steel. And people have claimed to feel cold spots in the room and have felt a certain presence in that room as well. That's why they believe that it's the spirit of this poor fisherman.
That's awful.
It is. See, you do have to have tragedies to have a haunting. Just kidding, you don't. But it seems like they do tend to
follow the tragedies.
follow
for
tragedies.
Sure.
But I'm sure there's plenty of other spirits on that boat that were just lovers of the sea.
Well, figure it went around the world 21 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's seen its fair share of stuff, right?
Storms,
Yeah, storms and
pirates.
I can't imagine. That's the thing is like 4 days into a journey, right, from England to New Zealand. How long of a trip is that? That has got to be months.
Well, yeah, and you don't have any steam power. You don't have.
This is
It's
all
all
sails.
by the sails, by the power of the wind.
Right. And
If you're blessed to have wind.
Yeah, right.
but think of this though, like if you're part of the ship, right? Because an army captain wouldn't be, right? So if you're part of the ship, then you got something to do. But what do you do for 2 months on a ship when you got nothing to do?
I don't know. So
So you go stir crazy.
I've wondered that a lot, right? With my ancestors crossing, in the mid 1856, Mary, my spirit guide, came across on a boat, and what was that voyage like? I mean, there were people that died,
Yeah.
a lot of people that got sick, a lot of disease and stuff on the boats because conditions aren't always. It's not like the cruise ships that you have today.
A floating mall.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
have that
Casinos and
Yeah,
good
everything.
good
Bathrooms.
food.
Restaurants.
kind of stuff. And so sanitation was not good. You
No.
didn't have a chance to take baths or showers. I mean,
No, food was usually heavily salted. That's why scurvy
Yeah.
was so prominent on
So-
ships.
it just all of these ships, whether it's a warship or even just the transportation, had to have been. And maybe it's just because they're hardier people than we are. I don't know, but I don't know that I could do it.
That's because we couldn't do without our iPhones and our cell phones and our
All of our technology.
yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
wait, I can't watch a movie on this ship.
Right.
What am I going to do?
can't. There's no
You don't
water.
watch movies anyway, Josh.
No
so why
water
does it matter?
That's true.
See, now the ships all have water slides and
Lots of food places.
They
yeah.
have roller coasters on cruise ships
Yeah.
now. It's ridiculous.
24/7 pizza buffet. I mean,
Yeah, they got their things going on.
casinos.
All you can drink, food, alcohol.
You'd think I'd been on a
This
cruise
is all
ship.
coming from somebody who's never been on a cruise ship.
I've never been on a cruise ship, but I did see
Neither
one
have we.
once.
Oh, I have. I've been
I
on one
haven't.
cruise.
I've seen one on TV.
I've stood next to them on the dock, and that was enough to know that these things are ginormous.
They're huge.
Well,
They're
The closest I've ever been to one was in L.A. We went out to the port there at Long Beach,
Mm-hmm.
and we got there just in time to see a Carnival cruise sailing away.
Yeah.
But parked right next to where that Carnival cruise was, and I don't know, did we wave from our car? There was nobody out on the decks like they do in the TV shows or the movies.
No, nobody
Yeah,
cares.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were probably already eating,
Probably.
Drinking. Yeah.
drinking. Yeah.
They were doing
But-
the safety course. You have to have the safety thing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have to actually pay attention, or is it like on an airplane?
They go over where your life vests are in your cabins and ports of exit from your cabins and where the lifeboats are at. There's a whole. It's kind of like the safety briefing on the airplanes of but
What to do.
yeah.
But they do it in smaller pods.
Your exits are to the left and straight down the road.
In
But-
case of your seat can be used as a flotation device. Anyways,
I don't know. It makes me nervous. But next to where that ship was leaving, in fact, we drove right next to it, was the lovely
Queen Mary.
Queen Mary.
Hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Queen Mary.
Yeah, this is going to be probably the bulk of the podcast because there's so much information available on the Queen Mary.
There's a lot.
It's crazy.
It's also the newest ship
Yeah.
of all of the ones we were going to
Well,
cover.
the thing is, it's the newest ship, but it's still pretty old.
Older than I am, and
That's
that's
true.
pretty old.
Uh-huh. So it was the RMS Queen Mary. Now, do you know what the RMS stands for?
I do.
Yeah, I do too.
I think we all do.
It stands for what, Terry?
Royal Mail Ship.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
I was trying to think of something whimsical to say, but I lost out.
You missed.
really,
Missed the mark.
really mature ship. It's because it's so old.
But there's also a lot of myths on some of these hauntings on if the stories are actually real. We're going to get to that.
But it changed to HMS, right?
No.
HMS Pinafore.
Yes.
No, it was never an HMS. It was always an RMS.
So that was the thing, the distinction between the two,
The HMS?
HMS and RMS.
Yeah, because the HMS is Her Majesty's ship.
Right.
Yeah. And then there was the RMS, there's mail ships.
Right. Well,
So
they
was
would
it one
carry
warship?
they carried the mail.
They would carry mail, but even the Titanic was the RMS Titanic.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a Royal Mail ship, then could it like it's protected? It cannot be touched.
Well, they shouldn't. I mean,
like a
they're not
courier with a-
warships.
Like a courier with a marked bag.
It's like a cruise ship with mail on the bottom.
Yeah, because this was like a luxury liner cruise ship. I mean, this thing was top notch, best of the best when it was built.
Mm-hmm.
It's named after a queen. I mean, come on. What do you want?
It should be, right?
Well, it was bigger, faster, and more powerful than the Titanic,
Yeah.
for sure. So
Britain's,
it was,
you know.
And it had a much better career than the Titanic.
It sure
here's the thing.
did.
Did you know it was built by the same company of the Titanic?
The White Star Line?
Yes.
Yes.
It was built by the White Star Line. It was built at Clyde Bank in Scotland on the Clyde River.
Scotland.
And the first steel plate was laid on December 1st of 1930.
I was
Want me to
there.
keep
Wow.
going?
I was there. It was
Keep
great.
Okay.
You got it.
The construction of the Queen Mary was halted a year later, so in December of 1931, due to the Great Depression, which also happened. The Great Depression also hit the Star of India from being the floating aquarium. But
Yep.
anyways, and then she sat and work didn't resume again until May of 1934. So she sat for 3 years.
3 years, a piece of
3
a ship.
years. Just the whole of the ship sat
Yep.
there for 3 years.
What you building? We don't know yet.
An arc. What's an arc?
So, but then they resumed the building of her, and then she was launched and christened on September 26th of 1934. I don't feel like that's the right
And
date.
then when is her maiden
No, that's
voyage?
right.
in?
That's right.
That's
Voyage.
right. So,
I have that her maiden
But-
voyage was May 27th, 1936.
yeah, that was down here. I have that down here.
So it was christened a
It
little
was-
bit before it
Yeah, it
actually
was
got to
christened a
sail.
little bit because when she was christened, she had no power. She had no power on her when she was christened. So what they had to do, she was launched and then she was rigged with chains, and then she was pulled by tugboats up the Clyde River to the shipyard where she was fitted with her steam engines.
Oh, so it's just basically a beautiful hull of a ship with nothing to push it.
Nothing to push it.
Oh, but this is what's
But it took
crazy.
them 18 months to pull her up the Clyde River to the shipyard.
Dang.
So it took
That's
over a
long
year.
trip.
Over a year to get her because she was so big. They had to dredge the river in some parts to get her through it because she was so big.
Jeez.
Wouldn't you think before you built it that you got to
Well,
you got to figure out you got to
sometimes
pull it
it's-
through the hole first?
Right? Right? And so when she was fitted with her steam engines, it was the largest at the time. She had 4 engines placed in 2 engine rooms, and each engine provided 42,000 horsepower, which totaled just over 160,000 horsepower for all 4 engines. You know what that equals to? About 200 Ferraris.
Ooh,
Dang.
that's still. I mean, I don't think it's as much as we got today, but that's still pretty cool.
That's one of the reasons why she was one of the fastest ships at the time when she was built, because she had
Oh, yeah.
all that horsepower.
She was the Ferrari of the sea.
Literally.
I was like, that's the nickname I just gave her.
So yeah, and she was over 1,000 feet long, 23 stories tall. She could sleep over 2,000 people. She was about 80,000 tons.
So she was a big ship. How
Yeah.
close was she to the Titanic?
Oh,
Oh, I have that.
Yeah,
I
you-
texted Terry a
you
picture.
have that. Mike has that.
Let me get that for you.
Yeah, when she was built in 1936, she was the largest ocean liner ever made at the time.
Yeah, that's huge.
So, the Titanic was 269 meters long. So, a meter is about 3 feet, right?
Yeah. Roughly.
So, do your math. Queen Mary was 310 meters long.
So another full
So
50,
269 to 310. So, yeah, a full another
40.
50, yeah, about 40 meters.
It's a pretty good distance. Like
Oh,
100 feet, at least over 100 feet longer. So that's a good size.
Yeah, it's a good size
ship.
She was pretty much bigger. She was pretty much.
But it's not as big as the Love Boat.
It's because the Love Boat was a modern day cruise ship. Well,
Yeah.
modern for its
Ish.
time.
Yeah. Hey, Jimmy, do you have the story on how she was named the Queen Mary?
I do not.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So originally, they wanted to name her the Queen Victoria. And so the builders went to the king because you had to get the king's permission to use the queen's name to name your ship. And when they went to King George V for permission to name the ship the Queen Victoria, they said that they wanted to name the ship after Britain's greatest queen. And the king said, "My wife, Mary of Teck, would love that." So who's going to fight the king and be like, no, we want
meant-
Victoria.
I think Victoria would have been his grandmother.
I don't know.
I think it was his grandmother.
Yeah, but either way.
But
it's
either
like,
way,
Or
he's
not
maybe
the
his
like,
sitting
mom, I'm not
queen.
sure.
no, he's
But
like,
no.
yeah, the sitting queen. And so they just went along with
Yeah.
it and
Yeah,
they
just
named
go with
her.
it.
They
Dispute
just
that.
went with it and named her the Queen Mary.
Nice.
That's all right. They later have a Queen Victoria boat.
Do you have information on her first voyage?
I just have where it says that where a lot of the rich sailed on her.
Yeah. So her maiden voyage, the Atlantic crossing was May 27th of 1936, and she went to New York. She was greeted in New York with the huge fanfare. There were thousands of people crowded on the docks, and there were, because, it's the biggest ship of all time. Everybody wanted to see
Yeah, the
this,
Titanic
right?
didn't make it. The party
They
had
didn't get to
planned
see the
that one.
Titanic.
They did not.
There was hundreds of boats in the harbor to greet her, and they had tons of fire department boats out there with their fire hoses going, and planes were low buzzing the ship. It was just great big huge fanfare welcoming her to New York. And many rich and famous people traveled on her. Some were Fred Astaire, Bob Hope, Bing Crosby. Do you have anybody else?
Yeah, Duke and Duchess of Windsor, Greta Garbo, Clark Gable, Mary Pickford, George and Ira Gershwin,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was Sir Winston Churchill too.
Yeah. See, some of those sailed on her like after she served in the war. Some were before and some were after the war
Yeah.
because she.
It's a mix.
That's still a
Yeah.
who's who of
Yeah,
people, though.
no. Even Walt Disney sailed on her. In fact, I saw a picture where it was Walt Disney, his wife, and his two daughters just disembarking off of her.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a cool picture.
Wow.
It was a really cool picture. So, she also helped thousands of Jewish refugees escape to America on the ship right before World War II broke out. She helped the Jewish escape. But then when World War II officially started, at first they kind of hid her in the New York harbor because she was to kind of protect her from being a target from all the U-boats.
It's the biggest ship in the world.
Yeah.
It's a target.
And they weren't going to fight because at this point America wasn't part of the war, and so they were hiding her over in the New York harbor.
I laugh because we weren't part of the war.
Yeah.
Except we were hauling guns and supplies. To
Oh yeah, no, we were
Europe.
secretly doing stuff. So, but
No, we weren't.
but then that's when they decided to turn her into a warship, and so all of the expensive luxuries they had in her, all the china, all the carpet, everything got ripped out of her. All of her rooms now became bunk rooms instead of suites, and they ended up painting her gray, where she got the nickname of the Gray
Ghost.
The
Gray
Gray
Ghost.
Ghost. She carried 15,000 to 16,000 troops at the time.
That's
she would-
a lot of people because
Yeah.
That's a ton.
it was only supposed to carry like 2,000 people.
Well, yeah, because then they turned all of the rooms into bunk rooms, and you could sleep 2 to 4 people in a room. It's going to increase your capacity.
Yeah, imagine taking a giant suite that has like one king size room or queen size bed in it. King size bed, I don't know.
And you put 15 people in it.
And then you have bunk beds that just roll
Yeah.
down.
yeah.
So, and because the Gray Ghost nickname came because she could make the crossing so fast back and forth without being detected, and she did the zigzag pattern to avoid the torpedoes and the U-boats and all that stuff. In fact, she was helping so much with the war effort that Hitler put a bounty of $2,000 on the ship for any U-boat.
250,000.
250,000 that could sink her.
wow.
That's a
Dang.
lot of money back then.
And German U-boats were taking out a lot of ships in the Atlantic
Which
at
is
that time.
interesting for how primitive those U-boats
that
really
that
were.
means that Hitler really wanted her gone.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were primitive, but the thing is there wasn't a counter.
No, they were effective though.
We didn't have a counter to the U-boats because it's like up until that point in time, it was like, hey, we'll fight everybody above the water. And they're like, hey, we'll go under. And they're like, uh-oh.
Anything else?
Did you do it at the close of war?
Well, there's the accident that she had. Do you have that?
No, I don't.
Okay. So in October of 1942, Queen Mary was carrying 10,000 troops to Europe, and she accidentally crashed into her ship escort. It was the HMS
Curacoa, I believe is how that's pronounced.
Curacoa. Yeah,
Sounds Polynesian.
Curacoa. And due to the huge threat of of her being taken out by the U-boat, she was under strict orders to never stop for anything whatsoever. And so with her doing the zigzag pattern and moving as fast as she was, the Curacoa couldn't keep up with her. And in the confusion of who had the right of way, she just sliced right through that ship.
Oh, jeez.
And she ended up leaving behind a crew of 239 people in the sea, but couldn't go back to help with any of the survivors because she had to keep going.
Yeah.
Eventually, some other escort ships came back and they were able to pull 99 survivors out of that 239. But sadly, there was many men that passed away from that accident.
You got to imagine the captain has got to feel just horrible.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, I just ran over a ship
But I can't
and
stop.
I left them to die.
I can't.
I have to keep
I have to
going.
keep going. But you
Yeah.
got to look at how many she probably had on her carrying. The casualties versus 239 versus 15,000.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
it's a
You
huge
know,
difference
If
for
there's
sure.
a
active
difference.
U-boat threats there, then yeah, you can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
But you still feel horrible, though. It's like,
Oh yeah.
it's like, I just left those guys to die.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that sucks.
So that right there, a huge tragic accident to cause for a haunting on a ship, right?
That's a lot of emotion just pegged into that
Right.
that thing at one time, too.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And so then you go into the time of Winston Churchill, being on the boat. It was always so secretive whenever he was on the boat, because he would go back to America and go and meet with President Roosevelt. Whenever he was on the Queen Mary, it was always in secret. So he was listed as Colonel Warden on the passenger list. And a lot of the D-Day invasion was planned in his stateroom. They actually brought in sand and little models and kind of planned out the invasion in the bathtub in his room.
What are you doing? I'm playing with my little boats.
Yeah. So they made a fake beach and planned out the whole D-Day invasion. Whether this is actually true or not, but
Right.
it's rumored that the D-Day invasion was planned.
So if we call Air Force One because the president's on board, right?
Right.
Did they give the Queen Mary a special name when Winston Churchill was on the?
I don't think the British do that. I think that's an American
know.
construct.
What do you got? We got Boat One, or maybe they call it the HMS Pinafore.
Uh,
Isn't that the Pirates of Penzance?
Yes.
so then
Are you
after
the
the
very
war,
model of a modern major general, expert on all things animal and mineral.
So then after the war ended, Queen Mary transported troops back home to a huge welcoming ceremony. And in September of 1946, she was put back to her luxury self-cruiser liner. She had 3 classes for passengers. There were 771 first-class cabins, 707 cabins, second-class cabins, and that were called cabin class. And then there was 577 third class, which was called the tourist class.
Yeah, because you can't call anybody third class.
No.
You're a second-class citizen.
No, and she pretty much dominated the transatlantic passenger trade for the ship.
Now they call it economy.
Yeah, she was a 2-ship weekly express service through the latter half of the 1940s and the 1950s.
Just think about that, right? We were talking about how long it takes on those sailing ships to make those voyages.
It was like a month.
And she's doing twice a week.
Twice a week, back and forth.
She
Yeah,
leaves
that's
Mondays.
impressive.
Like, all
Going
right,
back and
Kicking
forth.
I'll see you. So you would set sail Monday, get there
get
about
dock on
Wednesday,
It's like we'll be back on Friday.
Mhm.
right? Oh man, that's impressive.
Yeah. Because she was so luxurious, like we said, she attracted a lot of the famous people. Did you have Elizabeth Taylor?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, Elizabeth Taylor, Audrey Hepburn, Walt Disney, all sailed on her.
Clark Gable.
Yep.
That's really like the who's who of Hollywood
Back
the
then,
time,
at the
elite.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
How much was the ticket? Do you guys know?
no, I didn't even try looking that up.
It would be just interesting because, like,
$1.
How much it would cost
how much it would cost,
versus
right?
the different classes and all that stuff
Right.
too.
I'm Googling it.
Here's what's interesting, though, if you think about it, right? Is at that time you would take the ship and you would cross the Atlantic, you'd go to Europe, and that was the purpose of it, right?
Yeah. It was basically just a transport ship back and forth because there was no air travel
Mm-hmm.
that much at that time.
No, they were not transatlantic.
Yeah.
Because it was too hard to get across the Atlantic. It was a very long flight. So
Can you tell you what a ticket costs now? $81.
it doesn't sail anywhere.
I know, but but you can go board the ship for $81.
But if you think about it, like the modern day cruise ships now, right? What do? I leave Fort Lauderdale. We go visit some islands, and then we end up in Fort Lauderdale again
Yeah,
after.
they just make a loop around.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, this is how you went from point A to point B
Yeah.
if you wanted to go to Europe.
There was no other way
Right.
to get there. Because
Yeah.
you can't travel by map like they do the Muppets.
No, you sure can't. We try.
I wish
it just
I
doesn't
could.
work.
I did it once. It was very stressful.
Yeah.
I hit one of those folds, and it messed up my suspension.
You got lost.
So yeah, so then once, air travel, they started doing the transatlantic air travel with the jet airliners and stuff. It got to the point where she was losing money, when she was making her voyages, she had more crew on deck than she had passengers on deck.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm sure makes for a really fun, like, passenger experience,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
definitely doesn't help on the
No,
pocketbook.
No, and so since she was losing money, she retired from service in 1967, and she made her last crossing was her 1,000th crossing of the North Atlantic. So she went back and forth 1,000 times.
That's impressive.
Right?
Yep.
Did find that her normal service speed was 26 knots, which is about 30 miles an hour, and top speed was about 30 knots, which is about 35 miles an hour, which for a boat that big is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
At
Especially
least
when
for that time.
Especially when you considering it's only steam power.
The cost per berth, so every time that she left dock, was $300,000
Dang.
every time to take her out. It was increased by the high quality materials. 40% more steel was required for her than the standard cruise ship.
Wow.
Dang.
I'm still trying to find what a ticket price was.
But you can just do the math now, though, because there were 14. There were.
Oh, I got it.
There were 1,900 cabins, so just take that and divide it by.
So I don't know exactly what row or what
class?
row. Well, I have the classes.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
So the old brochure price is $1,200 for an inside cabin, $1,500 for an outside cabin, or $2,000 for a balcony.
I wonder
room.
what that would cost
Now,
nowadays.
the discount prices were pretty much $800 for anything.
What year was that?
I don't know.
That would have been the 40s, 50s.
Okay.
Probably. So, but she
Wait,
arrived.
wait. Never mind. Scratch all that. That's the Queen
I
Mary
was going
2.
to say, I was going to say that's
Yeah.
quite a bit of money for the 40s and the 50s.
That's the Queen Mary 2.
The Queen Mary
So
2.
after they sold her to America.
Okay. Yeah, so then she arrived in Long Beach on December 9th, and that is where she has stayed. She's now a tourist attraction as a hotel, museum. She's got restaurants, shopping, and event venues. Gosh, that's hard to say. Following Queen Mary's docking, claims were made that the ship is haunted, and in 2008, the Time magazine included the ship among its top 10 haunted places.
Awesome.
So I've been talking way too much, Jamie.
She was also sold in 1967 for $3.45 million to the city of Long Beach. So
Okay,
where
I got
she
your
still
ticket
sits
price.
today.
Oh, I got it. I got one
Ooh,
too. I
what
found
is it?
So
What is it?
for a sun deck cabin, which is a spacious first class outside cabin with a private bathroom, was
Ooh.
$295.
Okay. But how would that be
Equated to
cost-wise
today, yeah.
today?
Okay. So one I found, it says the fare ticket of $195 in 1956 has the relative value in 2018 of ranging between $1,400 to 8,900.
Okay, see, now that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because that's how
Where you
much
wanna go.
you go and look at cabin prices on cruise ships nowadays.
$195.
You know,
I could do that.
Yeah, so that it's really just kept up with inflation over time.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a lot.
So let's talk about the hauntings.
Is it haunted?
Oh, it's haunted.
It is haunted.
It is so
Would you call it
haunted.
uber haunted or
I
just
don't
kinda
believe it.
haunted?
Super uber haunted? I don't know. I've never been there.
Oh, do you want to go over the Disney stuff first, or do you want to go right into the hauntings?
You want to save the Disney stuff for last?
We
'Cause
should.
That's something I never knew about the Queen Mary.
I didn't know any about this
Disney.
either, but part of this Disney stuff
Feeds into it.
feeds into some of the hauntings on
Okay.
why some of the hauntings might be fake.
Okay, so
It's all fake.
let's do the Disney
Ghosts
first.
don't exist. We've
Let's hit the
established this.
Disney first.
That's right. We've established that, and that's why we're here.
I don't know what I have for this.
Stories.
You can kick us off, Terry.
Okay, so in 1990, Disney had tried to turn the Queen Mary into an extension of Disneyland, and it was going to be called Port Disney. It was going to be a $3 billion project and was going to be dedicated to ocean life around the world, and the main focal point was going to be a giant 2-story aquarium and research facility that was designed to look like giant bubbles. So think of like the Epcot Center, but bigger.
Ooh.
One of the attractions plans was to be a haunted attraction aboard the Queen Mary. Disney had known about the haunted stories aboard the ship for years, and the attraction was going to have a story attached to it with fake paranormal activity to try and make people think they were witnessing real paranormal activity. So kind of like the Haunted Mansion, but at sea. And they wanted people to think that it was real, not fake. So, but however, Long Beach turned down the plan and cited that the environmental impact the park would have on the ocean and all the local businesses that they would have to close to make way for hotels and highways that would need to be built, that they just told Disney no. So later, Disney actually used those plans for the concept of the Disney Sea in Tokyo Disneyland. So everything they had put together, the Imagineers and everything, didn't go to waste. In fact, in the Tokyo Disneyland, Disney Sea, they actually have a replica of the Queen Mary. So, and after Disney lost the ownership of the Queen Mary, some stories are rumored that left behind, Disney had already started to work on the haunted elements on this haunted attraction they wanted to do. And so some of the current owners know that these elements existed, and they still use them today to make people believe there is hauntings on the ship.
That's a rumor.
However, none of it's confirmed. It's all rumor.
Huh.
I'd like to go find out.
Right?
Right?
I'm actually kind of glad they did get turned down.
I am too.
Yeah.
I am. And it was kind of they kind of got it by accident, because they were trying, when Disney originally built the Disney Hotel, he didn't have enough money to afford it. So he got a loan. I can't remember the name of the guy, but when he finally bought out ownership of the hotel, it was like a package deal where he got the hotel and the Queen Mary because the guy owned both of them. So it was kind of a package deal. So they kind of ended up with a kind of happenstance.
Right.
It wasn't. And so it was kind of like, what are we going to do with it? So they were kind of, and it also kind of paved the way for them to get, why can I not think of the name of the other park? My gosh.
California Adventure.
California Adventure. How did I not even think of that?
DCA.
The one that's
Okay.
right next to it.
Right next to it. Because they wanted to expand that way, and Anaheim kept denying them the extension of a second park.
Right.
And so when they tried to do this up in Long Beach, Anaheim reconsidered the option, because all the money that Anaheim would get from the tourism
Right.
would now be going to Long Beach. So it kind of helped Walt Disney out to be able to get approval to extend over into, well, it wasn't even Walt Disney at the time because it was the 1990s, but that was how they were able to get the extension for California Adventure.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
it's kind of a longer roundabout way that it happened, but it all worked out in
For
the
the
long
best.
run. For the best in the long run.
Yeah, because I mean the thing is Long Beach is only 20. I looked it up. It's like 23 minutes from Anaheim, from Disneyland.
When
No,
there's-
it's not that far.
When there's no traffic.
When there's no traffic.
Well, right,
yeah.
but-
it's not that far. But they were trying to make it like a second entryway for
yeah.
Disneyland, but it worked out better for them to get the extension for California Adventure.
I mean, it would have been cool in the sense, right? But
Right.
I'd hate to see a historic ship like that get turned into some crazy weird amusement
Yeah.
park.
Yeah. To me, it doesn't seem Disney. To me, the thought of it
No.
It doesn't
seem Disney to me. But yeah, I had never known any of this about Disney and the Queen Mary ever in all the research and history that I've done on the Queen Mary.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard of it either. And it's neat that, I mean, it's cool because it's like tied to like, the famous Disney theme park in that avenue. And I'm sure they could have done a lot. Like, look at Haunted Mansion, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've done a good job of making things look haunted. And that was, and with their limited technology at the time when they put it together. So
Yeah, because so none of it's confirmed that Disney actually did this stuff because the rumors of the ship being haunted existed before Disney ever owned it.
right,
Because it's been docked there since 1967, and so there was all these rumors of it being haunted. So Disney might have just capitalized and kind of embellished more ghost stories to try to get people wanting to come once Disney was done building it.
right,
But to me, it's important to never fake anything paranormal to make people think it's real when it's not real, because that just loses any validation that we have.
right.
Because it's already hard enough to try to get people to believe.
Yeah,
And then you find out that, it was fake.
yeah, that does make it a challenge. It's interesting though because you're talking about 1990, right? Which is really starting to get into like the height of haunted houses.
When like we were just saying on the previous episode.
Yeah.
About when, because
it's just the horror movies
paranormal's
are
only
coming
been
out.
is new to Americas.
Right.
So this was when like Ghost Hunters started coming out and all that kind of stuff.
So it would have played nicely in 1990 with
What was happening.
with the way the stream was with the paranormal.
Right. Well, I think another thing that I think it comes up further in the notes here. I remember reading it, but that when they bought it, it was also because the guy that it was a package deal.
I already said that.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was.
So
You were too busy trying to find the cost of the ticket when I was
So
talking
who-
about it.
but what happened? So Disney obviously doesn't own it now.
No, Disney does not own it now.
So how did it get into the hands of the current owners? Do we know?
I don't.
Okay.
Money.
But,
Money. Yeah, I think after Long Beach turned them down, Disney had no need for it. They put it up for sale. Somebody else bought it, and they just kept rolling with the stories that were being told.
Yeah. So what do we got for hauntings then?
So now we can go into the hauntings.
Well, actually, I think right now doesn't the city of Long Beach own it?
The city of Long Beach owns it now because it was currently sinking a year ago.
Yeah, it was listing.
It was listing and it was sinking, and
Yep.
the cost of like upkeep on it, because apparently like the original owners had a grant to like do all this extensive refurbishing on it, but they spent the money elsewhere and didn't do the refurbishing that was supposed to be done. I'm surprised this boat's not dry docked at this point, honestly.
Right.
Yeah, well, no kidding. And I think we talked about that before on a previous episode or at the previous time, and that's what I said. I was like, why isn't it dry docked?
Right.
Yeah.
I was
I
like,
don't know.
You could dry dock it and still have people stay on board the ship.
100%. But yeah, and so there was actually rumors they were just going to let it go. But then Long Beach, the city of Long Beach actually ended up ownership with it. And now they're trying to figure out what to do with it. It's actually currently not open. You can't get on it right now.
Oh, that sucks.
Mostly because it's sinking. But even the cost of just dry docking it at this point is what?
Astronomical.
Millions of dollars.
I was
Yeah.
looking at an article earlier today that I don't have on my computer anymore, but it was one of those things of like it's 105 million to scrap it. It was like 150 million to try to relocate it. Which how do you relocate something like that?
Carefully.
Over 18 months, you drag it through the streets with semis, and
and then it was like
and it gets hauled over to Disney's California Adventure and put in the Paradise
Paradise Pier.
Or to refurbish it and fix it to dry dock, it was like 150. I mean,
So it's all comparative pricing.
You're
It's just
looking
what do you
over
do?
$100 million just to.
But it's the same price no
anything.
matter what you do with it.
Right.
You know?
Because
For-
environmentally, they can't let it sink.
No. I mean, at this point, in my personal opinion, the best thing to do is to dry dock it.
So what exactly is dry
So-
dock mean?
Means you essentially take it out of the water and you put it on a
Kind of put it on stilts.
basically
kind of.
on stilts, so it's out of the water and it's
Not corroding anymore.
Yeah, it's not going to corrode. At least not going to corrode in salt water.
Yeah.
Right.
They would have to drain that
That-
because they have like the whole wave break rocks around it right now.
Yeah.
They would have to find a way to put a foundation in there, drain it, and then just kind of leave it where it's at.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Usually dry docking is done so they can access the water, the underwater portion of the hull so they can repair and,
Right.
and fix it.
So could they just kind of, I mean, it only costs money, but lift it up, flush out all the seawater, leave it where it's at essentially, but kind of lift it with the giant cranes because they can do anything now. Flush it out and then put fresh water in there and just have like a little freshwater lagoon.
They would never do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the chances of the freshwater leaking out and causing issues into the salt water. They would never want to do that. It'd be an environmental disaster.
Freshwater would hurt saltwater?
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Turns it brackish, which then causes issue with the fish and the sea life in the area, and then you've got another environmental problem.
like the sea life in the Long Beach Pier is probably
It's probably a little more.
you can't see like a foot down in that water.
It would be sad to see it go.
So much
honestly,
pollution.
It would be very
it
sad.
would be really
to see
sad
it go.
to see it go.
It's going to take probably a collective effort of monies to save the ship for historical purposes. The problem is if you look at investment, right? I mean, if you want to invest money into something, you always look at how long can I get something, or how long does it take to get something out? Like, what's my return on it?
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is there enough? Is there enough desire for people to stay on it as a hotel or anything like that to recoup $150 million?
Yeah,
it's a lot of money.
Just convince the government, the U.S. government, to buy it, make it a national park or a national monument, and then they'll fork out all your taxpayer dollars.
It has to be done by the national parks.
Yeah,
because they've got an endless supply of money.
Well, think about it though. How did the ships we've already talked about, right? Where are they at? They're in a park service system, right? They're owned by the government at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
They're owned by you, my friend.
Owned by all of us, at least those of us in the U.S.
Okay, Jamie, what you got for hauntings?
Well, let's talk about the most haunted room.
You're going to go right to the killjoy right at the beginning, huh?
I am.
Okay, go for it.
Stateroom B340.
Bingo.
So it said that the stateroom was
sunk by battleship.
It said the stateroom was a problem long before the Queen Mary opened as an actual hotel. In 1948, a British third-class passenger, Walter Adamson, passed away in the room, and the details of his death are actually unknown.
So
or they're just not saying.
So they just died on at sea?
Well, it was a hotel.
Yeah, it just says that he mysteriously died.
Mm-hmm.
And is it his ghost that haunts the place, or was he killed by the ghost that haunts the place?
Yeah.
Oh, I like option 2. It sounds more ominous.
Right?
So then in 1966, a woman staying in there, she'd reported that she was woken up when her bed covers were pulled off of her, and she saw a man standing at the foot of her bed. She screamed, rang for the steward, but the man apparently vanished into thin air.
That would be terrifying.
It would be.
Okay, so now another story claims that the staff locked a man in his third-class room after he murdered 2 women in the 1960s. During the night, he began beating on the door and screaming to the guards outside that something was in the room with him. When they opened the door in the morning, they found his bloody, mangled body ripped apart.
Dude, what?
So that's another theory of what happened in room B340.
So a guy committed murder, murdered 2 women on the boat. They obviously caught the guy. So they're like, hey, we're going to lock you in this room until we get to port.
Mm-hmm.
And then they found his bloody, mangled body.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy on the haunting of this room.
A lot. They had it locked up for a long time, that room.
30 years. Because, let's see. So after they turned it into a hotel, guests that were staying there claimed that there was the heightened paranormal activity, and guests would come out and flee in the middle of the night saying there was stuff happening in the room. They would demand refunds or a different room. Some would just leave and never come back. They reported strange sounds, footsteps, sinks turning on and off, hangers moving in the closet, furniture moving on its own, guests being touched, covers being pulled off. There are reports of full body apparitions. And due to no one being able to spend the night in the room, the hotel was forced to close the room. And after the room was closed, there were reports that the paranormal activity leaked into the adjoining rooms, causing more guests to flee in the middle of the night.
Here's what I find funny
Spreads.
is that they're like, people are like, I don't want to stay in that room. I'm out of here. And we're like, give
Let
me
us
that
in.
room.
Right?
Let me spend the night. I'm
Right?
good.
So, but then here's more controversy. It turns out that the room was never used for guests, but was used for storage. When the Disney company got the ship and was going to turn it into a haunted attraction for the Disney tour haunted attraction, the room was going to be one of the key rooms of the fake haunted tour.
He was responsible for spreading the rumors, and they wanted to get people interested in wanting to come and see the attraction once it was opened.
And so Disney was the one who created the sinks being able to be turned on and off by themselves. And they were the ones who created the images in the mirror because they have that effect in the haunted mansion.
Right.
And so and then they put speakers in the room so you could hear the disembodied voices. And so there's rumor that Disney had already put these in that room for their haunted attraction.
So that's what you're hearing.
So whether it's true or not,
That's just a rumor.
that's part
It
of the
could
rumor
totally be ghosts.
that Disney has put this in the room at one point.
Like-
So
kind of adds some like killjoy to this the spectrals part of it. I mean, you're like
Right. But
horrified to investigate it, but it's like, is it really just?
isn't it possible though that the rumor about the rumor is a rumor?
right.
Because
No.
well, think about it,
It's-
because at that time people aren't excited about go staying in a haunted room, right? So like, oh yeah, no, Disney when they had the ship, they did all this stuff, so it's okay. Go ahead and spend the night in the room. It's just
Yeah.
a bunch of smoke and mirror.
It's
Don't worry
smoke and
about it.
mirrors. Don't worry about it. It's
Right.
not going to hurt you.
Right. And so it's a rumor about a rumor about a rumor.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
It's the thing is, you don't know.
No.
So, but they had it closed to the public for 30 years and it just reopened in 2018. And I remember when it reopened in 2018 and all the hoopla about this room being opened.
Yeah.
Do you have what comes with this room? Okay.
Oh my god.
So if you go stay in this room
this is why I know
today,
it's real. Haunted.
okay. And this, we'll okay. Anyways. So if you go, it's obviously not available now because it's closed. But in 2018, the room keys came with a fierce warning of how haunted the room was. And there is still plenty of paranormal activity being reported from the room. But when you walk into the room, there is a pillar in the room. And on the pillar, there are quotes from the guests of the hauntings that have happened in this room. And then you go into the bathroom. And on the wall is a decal that explains to you how to play Bloody Mary in the bathroom.
Because that's a great
Right?
idea.
And then also provided for your stay in the room is a Ouija board, a crystal ball, and tarot cards.
See, we watched. There was BuzzFeed went there, and they stayed in that room.
in a little chest.
Yeah,
all this
there's a
stuff.
little chest with all
Yeah.
this stuff in it. So it's no wonder why they have so much paranormal activity in this room.
How many
'Cause you have-
demons have been summoned
Right,
through this stupid
right.
Ouija board?
How
if
many
nothing else?
how many things have been opened, conjured,
and not closed.
not closed, requested to come in?
Yep.
You know, so whether Disney has this stuff in there or not, the stuff they're providing for all these people that are spending the night that have no idea what they're doing,
Right.
who, you know, leads me to believe that some of this stuff is true, whether Disney has their trickery in there or not.
It seems like a lot of like paranormal malfeasance.
Right.
It's like, what in the blasted are you doing? Like,
Perfect storm.
yeah, exactly. Like, here's something you can use and play with, but we're not going to tell you how to use and play with it properly. So we're just going to give it to you to play with it.
They're opening so many things they shouldn't even be playing with. I mean, there's rumors of like the cleaning crew going in there, making the bed, going out to the cart, coming back, and the bed sheets are all ripped off the bed and on the floor. I mean, too, the captain doesn't like going in this room. Staff and crew doesn't like going into the room. Some of the newer stories, people have been pushed, pulled, scratched. They feel dark energies. There's growls, scary voices. They're waking up to shadowing figures standing over the top of them. I mean, with them doing what they did to this room, I think created
The ghost of
lot.
Mickey Mouse.
a lot worse stuff than what was originally in there.
Right. It sounds a very dark, demonic haunting now
Right.
in that room.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
So even at that, it doesn't matter if there was Disney magic in there.
you got all sorts of new magic
No, there's
now.
all sorts of real magic now.
So, okay, what else you got?
Boiler room number 4.
Yes.
So I don't have a lot on this, so I'll just read what I have, and
No, you're good. Go.
you can take it. Several people have reported seeing a little girl in this area, sometimes sucking her thumb, and also sometimes carrying a doll in her hand. Whether or not the room is haunted by that little girl, It says you should just stay away. That is all I got on that, but I know there's more.
Gotta see where I
Here's
have
an
it.
interesting thought, though. Like, I would expect a little girl in the passenger cabins on the deck.
Sure,
stuff like that.
why the boiler room?
Right. Why the boiler room?
Because there's also rumors of like a little kid drowning in the pool.
Yeah, I don't have anything on the boiler room.
Oh, nothing?
So no, I didn't have anything.
What
on the
about
boiler
hatch
room.
door number 13?
I do have hatch door number 13. That's John Petter.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
This is literally all that's here.
Is that all you have?
Yeah, it says the hatch door is known as Shaft Alley. And it was the site of a gruesome accident that saw a crewman crushed to death. And that is
Yeah.
all I got.
So his name was John Petter. He worked in the engine room in the 1960s during a waterlock drill. He thought that he could make it through the door faster than the door was closing. And while door number 13 was closing, he misjudged and was crushed to death and almost severed in half.
Oh.
Ever since his death, there has been reports of a ghost wandering the ship in the engine room that they call Half Hatch Harry, which is also John Petter.
Mm-hmm.
His ghost has been seen in different parts of the engine room. Whenever he is seen, he's wearing his old 1960s style coveralls. He's seen in Shaft Alley, where people have said they were followed closely by a man in the coveralls, but then disappeared when they got to door number 13. People have also seen his ghost in the work elevator, and guests have been down in the engine room while on tours and have had their clothes and their bags pulled on by unseen hands. There have also been sounds of banging on the pipes and moans of a man's voice. There's also been reports of the man in coveralls asking if you can find my wrench. I'm missing my wrench, because apparently he had a wrench that he was trying to pry the doors back open when he got crushed.
Well,
There are handprints on the walls from Greece that when the crews come to clean them, they disappear. There was one time where a tour guide named Nancy was walking along the walkway in the engine room when she felt someone come up behind her, and she looked over her shoulder and had seen a man in the old coveralls. So she kind of moved to the side to let him pass, and as soon as he passed her, he disappeared.
Wow.
jeez.
Sad, though.
That's not the only one.
So
There's
sad.
more.
That is sad. Here's what I would say this, though. I'm really glad that he chooses to appear as he was whole, and then as he was when he
Severed,
died.
right, yeah.
Could you imagine the level of like terror would be like, here's a dude that's pretty much in half walking on, excuse me, out of the
Thing is,
way.
if they know his name, why do they call him Half Hatch? I mean, that's like
Well,
rude.
I think it
like,
was
you
a
know his
nickname
name.
that
Yeah.
probably ghost investigators had
There's gators.
where they had created this name of Half Hatch Harry for him before finding out that his name was John Petter. I'm assuming, but
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, or it's just some absolutely cruel
mhm.
joke in that avenue.
Yeah.
Okay, another one.
The Mayfair room. Got anything on that?
What's
This room was once the ship's beauty salon, but now it's used as offices for the hotel. In 2001, a member of the accounting staff came early to work at around 5:30 a.m. and simply felt like something was just kind of off. She then went about her office task before sitting down at her desk and feeling unusually cold. Later, she felt someone brush up against the back of her chair, but when she turned around, no one was there. And then minutes after that, the woman saw a transparent figure in white, again,
A woman in white.
right?
A woman in white.
Walk across the room and pass through the door.
Or was it
So-
Barry White?
And she just ended up grabbing her keys and fled the room until her coworker showed up. I can't say I wouldn't have done the same thing.
Yeah.
When you're alone, it's
Different,
it's
right?
different than when you have at least one other person there. It's very different.
Yeah. See, and there's a lady of white that's been known to be seen in the first class lounge area, which is also doubled as the ballroom in the 1930s, where she's seen dancing in the corner by herself. People have also seen her that have followed her. The people in white have followed the people out of the room, but as soon as they get to the elevator, she disappears.
Because she's
So-
going to the salon.
She shall not
yeah,
pass.
maybe she's going to the salon.
Yep.
I don't know. Do you have anything on the generator room?
I do not. I don't think so.
So in the generator room, a man named John Henry, he was one of the first ghosts of the ship, actually. He passed away when the ship was getting fitted. So remember how it got dragged to the shipyard and was getting all the... he died by electrocution when he was building the generator for the ship. Ever since then, the room has been haunted. He's been seen as a shadow figure Strange sounds come out of the room, and there are actually holes on the floor and the walls. So when you do a tour, there are people that have been on tours that have seen an eye looking out of the engine room through the holes.
That creeps me out. That would totally creep me out.
Oh no, it totally creeped me
I'd
out.
rather see an apparition than an
eye
eye
looking
looking
through
through a
a hole.
hole.
Right. Or like just a finger coming up out of the
Yeah.
ground, like, come here.
So people think that it's Henry just keeping an eye on his ship.
We all
Yeah.
float down.
I hate to
So-
say it, but when you said Henry,
Yeah.
I was like, was he a steel driving?
John Henry was still
tempting.
driving me.
So, and then,
First class swimming pool.
okay.
There you go.
So obviously now abandoned. It was once the epitome of luxury with an illuminated fountain, mother pearl ceiling, and elaborate mosaic tiles.
Sounds really pretty.
Yeah.
It sounds beautiful, actually. The pool obviously is no longer in use because of California code issues.
It's actually drained. There's no water in it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't stop from being one of the hotbeds of paranormal activity on the ship. So a lot of people report seeing a number of ghosts, a young woman in a tennis skirt walking down the stairs and then disappearing behind a pillar, and a woman in an old wedding gown next to the pool with a little boy in a suit, and also wet footprints along the pool's edges.
Mm-hmm. There's a lady that's seen wearing a 1930s bathing suit, and she likes to hang around the edge of the pool, and she's actually been seen in the old pool locker room area. People think that she might have drowned there during operation, and that's why she's lingering around in the area.
Sounds very residual. Like
Yeah.
everything in the pool area sounds very
A lot
like
of the stuff in the
residual
pool
haunting.
area. In fact, in the second class pool area, do you have that one?
Uh-uh.
There's a little girl named Jacqueline Torn. The second class pool area actually is now a theater. The pool doesn't even exist there. But the little girl has been reported being seen in that theater and down in the first class area. She's described as being a girl around 5 to 6 years old, and she wears a 1940s dress. She likes to play with investigators, and she has been heard singing her favorite song, London Bridges. She's been heard laughing and talking in EVPs. People have said to hear a young girl laughing and splashing in water, even though one pool doesn't even exist and there's no water in the second pool. So that just adds to the creep factor even more.
Oh yeah.
One paranormal tour guide has told the story that while on an investigation by the first class pool area, they heard a little girl laughing and splashing and saw wet child-sized footprints appear on the floor while they were investigating.
So that's in the second class area.
That was in the first class pool.
Oh, first class pool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it definitely sounds like there's a mix of things going on in that.
Yeah, you have a lot of different stories. So there's rumors like up in the front of the belly of the ship, they hear a lot of screaming and just a lot of noise up there.
Like in the bow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and people think that it's from when she hit the Curacao. But there's also stories that they had a pit up there for the prisoners of war, and that's where they kept the German and Italy soldiers against their will. And they would lower food and water by rope down into them. And then, if the men died of injury or disease, they would just throw their bodies overboard. And so there's rumors that some of the voices they might be hearing up there are the moans of the prisoners of war that died, calling out for food and water. But that part of the boat is closed to the public, and you can't ever get up there.
That's a bummer.
No kidding.
All the best places are
Closed off.
forbidden.
For your safety.
Yeah.
There's also a ghost named Grumpy.
Yeah.
They call him Grumpy.
He's just named Grumpy.
He's just named Grumpy. They
So
don't
he's a
really.
dwarf.
They really don't know who he is, right?
No, they don't. They have no name. They have
Yeah,
nothing on
but they
him.
call him Grumpy the Growling Ghost. So he's actually he's
G for
memorable.
short.
Yeah, he's memorable because he tends to growl at the visitors. Grumpy is said to lurk in the room under the stairs near the first class swimming pool, and sometimes he joins John Henry in the boiler room. And you can actually, they say that you can actually hear the audio recordings of Grumpy growling at www.queenmaryshadows.com.
Huh. That's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean that's weird. I mean, I was wondering, like, is there a chance that it's a type 3 where it's
I guess you never know.
It's
right?
possible. It's possible.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
totally possible. Or they have Captain Treasure Jones as well. He was the last captain of the Queen Mary from 1965 to 1967. And he captained her final voyage from Southampton to Long Beach. And he earned serious credit in the maritime community, transferring him into the media figure following the vessel's retirement. So he died in 1993 at the age of 87. And he is well known on the ship for his affinity to like cigars. He'd smoke them like everywhere. And so a lot of visitors sometimes still report smelling cigar smoke in the captain quarters.
Huh.
Which, I mean, if he smoked cigars, and those can have some, I mean,
hang time.
powerful. Yeah, they have hang time. Do you not think that smoking cigars a lot would kind of just soak into and you'd kind of catch those whiffs every now and again?
Oh, yeah.
You know, so maybe that's not so much paranormal. I mean, it could be, but
Right.
it could also be that it's just that smell is just into those things, and you just, if the air current comes through right, or you're standing in the
It's
right
like when
spot,
you buy a
you
used
get a
car
whiff.
and they turn on the
Yeah.
air conditioning and all of a sudden
You
you
smell-
smell the
you
smoke
smell
person
it.
before he was
Yeah.
a smoker.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even though they
Yeah.
cleaned the car well.
Exactly.
Do you have anything on room B474?
I do not. Mm-mm.
Okay, so this is another urban legend type situation, but you tell a story enough, it can manifest itself. But there's a legend of a murder-suicide in this room. There's no any proof of anything happening, but there are two different stories. One story is that a family was traveling to America and the stepfather snapped during the voyage, first strangled the mother and the young sister of a girl named Dana, and then he broke into the bathroom where Dana was hiding and shot her and then shot himself.
Oh, good.
The second story is that a stranger broke into the room and ended in the same results. So there's no evidence to back up either one of these stories. However, they do have, so there's rumors that maybe Disney started these rumors, but people have claimed to see a young girl named Dana watering the halls, calling out for her mother and sister. She's also been seen walking through the cabin and into the bathroom and into the mirror of the bathroom. She's also reported to walk right through the door of the cabin and into the hallway. So
Wow.
the spirit of this little girl named Dana has been reported by investigators, but her story of how she got there isn't quite confirmed.
Right.
But there's that other story of the one guy that got locked into the other room because he killed two people, that maybe those two stories are linked.
Could be.
Well,
I
yeah.
wonder if there's like voices heard like of a guy saying, "So help me if I have to turn this boat around."
So, but I mean, and there's also some theories with her being waterlocked that the water can be like a natural conduit and provides energy for the spirits,
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
and so who knows if that has anything to help on why we have so many stories from the Queen Mary versus all these other ships.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of documented stuff from the Queen Mary versus a lot of the other ships out there.
Well, I think part of it too is age, right?
True.
You're talking 1940s, which modern era, a lot easier to find history, a lot easier to transport history and
Keep
and
records.
keep records and get things written down.
Uh-huh.
But it seems like a lot of the stories are more recent, tellings of things
Mhm.
about things that happened in the past, which is one of the reasons why we got some crazy differences in the stories.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is it all just modern coming out because people have investigated it, or is it, or all of that stuff? Like, where's it go?
Yeah. Who
You
knows?
know? And it does seem like the Queen Mary's got the gambit. It's got residual. It has
Mhm.
intelligent. Looks like it's got some type 3 work going on there.
Yep.
It's got phantom smells.
Mm-hmm.
it's
A little bit of everything.
it's the paranormal smorgasbord.
It's even got haunted objects.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. There's actually like a haunted object artifact room on the Queen Mary.
Really?
So
Nice.
there's a show that you can buy tickets to go see, and the guy who does the show has like traveled the world and collected all these haunted objects that he has in this room. One of the haunted objects that he has is a doll that's in a box, like a wooden crate box. And then there's a hole where you can look in and see the doll, but then it has like iron bars on it, kind of like a jail cell. So this doll is in this box. And the doll came from Cheyenne, Wyoming. It belonged to a little girl who was actually murdered by her abusive mother because the mother was jealous of the doll because she overheard the girl tell the doll that she loved the doll more than her mom. So at first they thought that her death was an accident, but come to find out she actually had murdered her daughter. And a week later, they found the mom dead at the bottom of the stairs. And at the top of the stairs, there was the hand of the doll. But the doll was still locked in the box.
Your mom locked it in the box so she could only look at the doll.
Yeah,
and
she
couldn't
locked
play
it in
with
the
her.
box so she'd only look at the doll and not play with it. But the doll's locked in the box, but the doll arm is at the top of the stairs. And the mom is dead at the bottom of the stairs. A week after her daughter died.
That's a story I have not heard of.
I have not heard of that either. Wow.
So at one point in time, there was a lady who, I don't know how she ended up with the arm, but she had actually turned it into a pendulum. And so if you see, right?
Why?
Because they were thinking of the energy from if it actually pushed the mom down the stairs. Anyways. So there's a YouTube video you can watch where it shows the doll in the case and then the arm with the string around it because it had been used as a pendulum.
So what I did, I built a pendulum, and in one side I've got Annabelle's arm, and the other side I got Robert's arm.
Goodness gracious.
Well, the thing is there's no negative energy from this doll. The doll moves, apparently. Like people who do the tour and go into this haunted object room, they will go in, the doll will be standing, and then when they leave, the doll will be sitting. So
In her box.
In her box, because they haven't ever taken her out. She's
Right.
still in the box. So you can see her face where she's standing, and then like she'll be sitting down. So the doll moves in the box, but there's like no negative like Annabelle or anything connected to it, which is kind of weird. It's just this doll that moves. And I think that the doll was just there to help the little girl and protect the girl, and that's the reason why the mom went down the stairs. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a weird.
But the YouTube video I watched, they had an SB7 and tried to do like a EVP session with the doll. They really didn't get anything with it. And but they did have a side-by-side from when they first went in and saw the doll. And then they went back later to see if the doll had sat down. It hadn't sat down, but it looked like the doll had moved. There's like a side-by-side where you can kind of see its eye. But then in the other picture, it had been moved a little bit where you could see its eye. Whether they moved the doll themselves, I don't know. But
Or even just a slight, if you're looking
Angle.
through
Yeah,
a
like-
hole, just the
Right.
slightest angle deviation.
depending on the angle they took the picture, you don't know. But
That's an interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting one because it's like there's supportedly like there's lots of people that have to say they have haunted objects,
yeah,
and it's like, look, it moves. It's like, yeah, but you could put an actuator in there and move it,
yeah.
and I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
So,
take
but-
your word for
But
what's
if you
going
have
on.
this guy bringing on all
Yeah.
these haunted artifacts onto the ship, that just adds that much more
Right,
to the ship.
Take it
exactly.
down to the room with the Ouija board.
You know, so they've definitely done some stuff to increase spirit activity on this boat.
Right. And it's because like, they do tours, right? They do.
Yeah.
You can rent out the ship for a tour
They-
for a
well, they
private.
did.
Well, they did.
Yeah,
So you could do private investigations, but
Yep.
it was always like you could obviously stay in your room and pick a room and whatnot. But for the private investigation, it was always in the hull. So you got the hatch area, the engine room, the boiler room, that stuff down there, but nothing really above it.
yeah,
And so one of the theories that people have is, and I've heard them say it or I've read it, that the Queen Mary is not haunted. The people who are getting stuff on the investigation, they're really just hearing the stuff from above.
which is a possibility.
Right. You know, and so it's like, which one are you getting? And that's why like investigating actively, active businesses is so challenging. Like if you go to a hotel and you're investigating a hotel, like, yeah, there was a bump at night, but was it a drunk guy hitting your door?
Yeah,
You know,
was it the person in the room next to you? Was it?
exactly.
Yeah.
So like, there's all of these other extraneous
Ice
factors that
machine.
make it a challenge. Yeah, well, exactly, right. Was it the elevator opening up? How bad of a room did you get?
Yeah, yeah.
Depends. Are we talking about the one that was up in Montana? We were right next to the stairs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You hear it all.
Right over the top of the lobby.
That's right.
and we warned you about that room.
Yeah, you did.
But yeah, and I have no doubt that the Queen Mary is haunted. You
Mhm.
know, it would be interesting to be able to investigate and see what
Yeah.
we find and get there because whether it was haunted before, with all the stuff they've done, I'm sure it's brought in their fair share of stuff to come play.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you see some of the stories that they have of these people were, long before any of that came onto the ship, long before Disney ever owned it.
Right.
So,
but that's the thing too, is like, if I want to bring up some, and this brings credit to the Disney rumors, right?
mhm.
Is if I want to bring credit to a haunted ship, right? Let me make up stories about people that you can't find.
Right.
And
There's
so,
no, listing of these guests ever being on the ship. But,
right. And so, because one, the records probably don't exist anymore.
mhm.
And so it's like, hey, yeah, there was this couple, they were murdered in this room and this is what happened. And people are like, oh, that's so awful.
Yeah, because they have the name of the girl Dana, but they don't have the name of the sister or the mom or the dad.
Right.
So
Which is
how do
odd.
they get the name of the one girl, but not the name of the rest of the family?
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, do these names have all of these names come from investigators, like
Mhm.
names that people have come up with, or were they there before? Like, there's a lot of questions associated to
I
these.
swear, Half Hatch Harry sounds like something that Disney would have come up with.
It does.
Like the Hatbox Ghost.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And so like, there's all of these questions that are associated to any of the haunted places that we investigate. Is can we get the rumors away and get the true story behind it? Sometimes it's really tough.
hmm Either way, I'd still love to go and investigate it.
Oh, 100%. I'd go to every one of these places.
I want them to fix it first so it doesn't fall over
Well,
while
that's
I'm
what
there.
I'm saying. I hope that they decide to fix it and reopen it. Honestly,
Yeah.
I would. It's one place I'd love to go just check out.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, if I can't investigate it, fine. But I'd still like to go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, like they could, and obviously they couldn't make their money back fast enough if they only did investigations there.
No, they
No,
couldn't.
there's no way.
Because they're just, if they could, the cost would be so astronomical. It would be hard for
Mhm.
anybody to go investigate. But if they charged, I don't know, let's say $1,000 a night, and you're able to rent out 300 nights a year, that's $300,000.
Yeah.
Well, in 2018, it was $500 a night for that room just to stay in B340.
B3. Yeah.
B340.
B340.
Yeah.
It was $500 just to spend one night in that room.
Dang.
Yeah, I'd still probably spend it. Not gonna lie.
I would stay on the Queen Mary in a room, but I would not do that.
I would
room.
not stay in that room.
I didn't say I would
Mainly-
stay in the room. I'd say I'd rent the room.
Investigate
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you rent 2 rooms that night. So you rent one to investigate in, and you rent one
And
to
then you
sleep in.
I know you're here, but don't follow me. I'm 2 doors down.
Yeah, right
Don't
next
tell 'em
door.
that.
I'm staying on the Lido deck. Don't follow me.
But yeah, it would be cool.
So, but yeah, I know there's plenty of other haunted ships out there. These were just the ones we chose to focus on.
Yeah,
So-
there's lots of them. There's a couple that I wanted to get to. I just didn't get time to get to them.
Uh-huh.
We can do
Because
a
I know
continuation.
there are a ton of USS Navy ships that are haunted.
Oh yeah, there's tons of them.
Tons of them.
And-
And we barely scratched the surface on the 2 that you did.
Right, and some of them are located in Pearl Harbor, which would be
Yes.
super cool to see.
I would love to go to
because of
Pearl
that.
Harbor.
The Flying Dutchman.
But there's also the Belle of Louisville,
Yeah.
which is an old paddle ship,
Yep.
an old riverboat, which would be cool. And then the SS William A. Irvin, which was in Lake Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still a lot of fun ships out there to go see and to explore. And all of these you can go see and visit,
Yeah.
which makes it nice. To
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, here's a haunted location, but you can never see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lake Michigan. It's not
Right.
Superior.
So, I mean, honestly, after doing this research and stuff, I kind of want to go to San Diego to this museum where they have all these ships and
Right?
just go see them. Not even really just investigate them, but just to go do a day tour,
Yeah.
And
And and I don't know. I think that's what I've loved a lot about investigating is that there's some history involved. And so you get to
Mhm.
learn the history about these places and understand how important they were to whatever operation they were in at the time. And then it's like, wow, that's really cool. And now I can go talk to some ghosts later.
Yeah.
So, but it's been a fun episode.
Yeah. This is probably a super long one for everybody, too.
Yeah. But there's lots of good little nuggets of fun and information in there and
Nuggets.
nuggets. And it did take us a little bit to get this one off the ground, but we got it there.
Yeah.
We got it completed.
Yeah.
So, So yeah, where can they find us on Facebook there, Jamie?
You can find us on Paranormal Peeps Podcasts or CPR Research or CPR. Oh, it's late. And I'm
Whoa, it's getting
tired.
late.
Yeah, it's
Cold
late.
Spot Paranormal Research. That's it. I got
That's the one.
CPR, cold spot paranormal. It's all about the same, right?
Yeah.
it. Yeah, you figured it
I
out.
will be honest, they ain't gonna go look anyway.
And on Instagram, we're coldspot_paranormal_research.
And on Twitter at CPR Paranormal. And with that,
And on MySpace.
and on MySpace at
We're not at MySpace.
Nope. And with all that, guys, have a great night and stay ghosty, my peeps. Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot_paranormal_research.